Hi class, here we are talking about your skill set 8 for week 8. First, we're going to take a look at the Essay 3 prompt. We're going to make sure that you understand what's being asked of you in Essay 3. We'll just take a quick look at the sample comparative analysis, right, by Tony Macklin. And then we're going to look at the first 5 steps that you have to do for skill set 8 and take a look at the table. So our first order of business is to take a look at the prompt. Here we go. So Essay 3, comparative analysis, length 4 to 6 pages plus a works cited page. You need at least 4 sources, and don't forget you're going to have at least 2 subjects, right? So you have to cite the source for the subjects. If they come from 2 different sources, you have to cite both of them. For this essay, you're going to analyze the way 2 subjects deal with identity. So basically, you can choose any aspect of identity. It can't be identity in general. It needs to be specific aspect of identity, right? There are all kinds of identity, and I would suggest that you do a little brainstorming. The ones that come to mind first are cultural, racial, national, familial. But there are more forms of identity that kind of break down from there. And you're welcome to choose any kind of identity that you think bind your 2 subjects. For this essay, choose any 2 subjects and compare similarities in how they deal with whatever form of identity you think they deal with. You may choose any form or type of subject you like: photography, short stories, advertisements, fashion, as long as there is content. So I don't know if 2 team mascots, I'm not sure if there's really content. What I mean by that is there has to be some sort of data on your subjects. If you're going to take a look at, like gender biases in fashion, you're probably going to find a lot of data on that. A lot of people have written about that. There are peer-reviewed academic articles on that. You'll probably find something in that takes a look at it from a standpoint of marketing, another one from psychology. Mascots, maybe if they're very familiar to us culturally, so like the Redskins versus the Braves. People see those mascots and those names as 2 very different things culturally. So there would probably be a lot of content there. But if you're just looking at some sort of phenomena that's not written about, and there's not going to be a lot of data, that will be hard for you to write about, so don't choose that. So if you were to choose 2 films, and this is just an example, you would watch them several times, taking notes as you go. You would take notes on what you notice. So what do you notice about the characters in the film? Are they stereotyped? Why or why not? What are the director's overall images? Do they use humor or drama to make their points? What do the films say about society in general? Consider aspects of filmmaking, like lighting and sound. How do they affect the film's commentary on identity? So you can narrow in on whatever aspect you like and take a look at what those things are saying about identity and how the 2 films compare. There are a number of steps I have to start this essay process. And I've devised a table for you to use to help you get started in those steps and to show me that you've actually done those steps. So a lot of you have difficulty when it comes time to writing a draft of your essay, and these first few steps are really important that you do. So even if you change your thesis later, you still need to go back and redo these steps. It's so important to get the writing process started. As we talked about in the first week, you have to do some exploratory research on identity. You have to know what identity means. You have to know what the different aspects of identity are. You need to look for what language are people using when they're talking about identity and what parts of identity. So let me just demonstrate that process a little bit here. And as I mentioned before, you can be able to do this, and you can start simply. So I just looked for identity. Of course, the movie comes up. But what I'm going to do is take a look at Wikipedia. It's a good starting place. Never an ending place, right? You never want to cite Wikipedia, but it's a great starting place. So, in psychology, sociology, and anthropology, identity is a person's conception and expression of their own self-identity and others' individuality or group affiliations, such as national identity or cultural identity. There's a little description down here. It goes on and talks pretty in-depthly and comprehensively about identity, and it even focuses on different aspects of identity. So from the psychological point of view, or let's see, in the social point of view, in an anthropological point of view, in a philosophical point of view, implications of identity, and it talks about identity changes, so that even that's something that you could kind of narrow in on and take a look at in your essays. So this has some good starting places. It also has some good keywords. So cognitive psychology plus identity in your Google search bar could be something you want to take a look at. Social identity, right, in quotes, is something that you could put in your search bar. So let's just start with one of these things. So identity in film, let's see, definition, theft, politics, let's say in film, and just see what comes up. And remember, you always want to look for academic sources. So if you want to bypass this, you could use Google Scholar. I don't know about academia.edu, but look at Yale, a reputable college. Representation, art and film, identity and stereotype. Great, so that's a great starting place. There's one down here which is a PDF, which is pretty serious, I suppose. Shaping Identity, Male and Female Interactions in Cinema. So it looks like there are some great places to start here. There are some books, not the film. So some good options come up, even though there are so many actual movies. Let's see, let's do identity, identity and gender. And remember our Boolean search terms, so I'm going to do this. Yep, that's what I meant. And again, I'm going to look for, more academic articles. So do you guys see anything academic coming up? There's a .org up there. It's Planned Parenthood. They have a lot to say. APA.org, definitions of terms. That could be helpful. It's a good starting place. This is from the American Psychological Association, which would be a quasi-academic source for you. A lot of papers are written in APA rather than MLA. That's a tip-off. But definition of terms, definitely. This may help you get started and understand. Oh, yes, we trust it. Start to understand how people are talking about identity and what types of identity. So if this is something that interests you, it may be a good starting place. Okay, let's look at the table. So here's the table for skill set 8, in case you haven't seen it yet. You just have to fill it in, and you can make it bigger or smaller. You can take up as much space as you like. But the step 1 is the exploration of identity. So go much further than we went just now in our Google search together. Tell me exactly what you did. Please describe what you did. What were your search terms? Be sure to show me the Boolean logic that you used. What kind of sites did you encounter? Were they academic sites? Did you read articles from newspapers or magazines? What inspired you? What search terms did you pick up on and then use next in your search? So I want to understand the process that you used, and I want you to be specific about that process, and I'll be looking for that when I score your skill set. And then you need to choose your two subjects. So after you've done some exploratory research, you've looked for inspiration, hopefully you'll settle on two things, right? Two subjects you want to explore. So maybe you already know, maybe it's, two songs by Taylor Swift, I don't know, or two movies, or maybe it's two heroes and you want to look at the identity of heroism. Or maybe female heroes in literature, and you have two books in mind or two characters. Whatever you choose, let me know there. Okay, step 3, you're pre-writing, and you can attach this or take a picture and send a JPEG or something like that, and upload that as well as your table. Or you can just do a free write right in here if you like. But I want to know what kind of pre-writing you do, and you can choose whatever works best for you, right? So if the mind mapping works best, do that. If the listing works best, do that. Columning, free write, you know yourself and you know what works best for you. I don't want you to do what's easiest to do for the assignment. I want you to do what's easiest for you to be able to start your essay process. And I trust you that you can choose for yourself. Step 4 is what is the component of identity that ties the two together? So what about identity? Identity is so broad, as we saw, there's a whole Wikipedia page on it, and it can really be broken down. So I want to know how you're going to break down identity and look at what components you're going to look at in your two subjects. So please explain what aspect of identity you will focus on and how the two subjects are related through this aspect. And then finally, your thesis. So you have a whole week to do this. It's due next Tuesday. Please give your insightful idea about how these two subjects are going to be compared through what aspect of identity. So just like the other essays that we've worked on, there are kind of 3 components to this thesis, right? It's your idea about telling me the two subjects. I want to know how they're going to be compared and through what aspect of identity they will be compared. So hopefully that's clear. Again, we have 3 components in our thesis statements. Please remember that a thesis statement should be 1 sentence long. These are fairly short essays. They don't warrant a really long thesis statement that's multiple sentences. The essay wouldn't warrant a really long introduction that's multiple paragraphs. Just 1 introduction and then a 1-sentence thesis statement. And it's up to you to work on crafting that thesis statement so that you can all get it all into 1 sentence. Use what you know about subordinate clauses. Use what you know about commas. Use what you know about listing, right? It's a good exercise in crafting a well-expressed sentence. So there's your skill set assignment. The last thing I wanted to show you is just this is the sample essay. It explores the search for identity theme in film. Read through it. Notice what he is, what aspect of identity he's focusing on. What component ties all of these films together. So he's looking at Homicide, The Shining, Manhunter, and Thelma and Louise. And then your quiz will, it'll ask you a few questions about this, and it'll ask you to compose kind of an essay answer. So it's short essay answers, but essay answers warrant multiple paragraphs, right? So I want to hear in depth what you have to say about this. All right, thank you so much for watching and listening, and I hope it was helpful. Please email with any questions.